The voicemail was meant for my brother Edward, but Dad William forgot to hang up. I was driving home from another 16-hour day at my design firm when my phone buzzed. Edward's name flashed on the screen, but when I answered, silence. Then voices in the background, my parents talking like I didn't exist. Edward gets everything. Dad's voice came through crystal clear. The house, the business, all of it. Annie made her choices when she moved away. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. 20 years of sending money home, of flying back for every crisis, of putting their needs before my own dreams, reduced to choices. Mom's voice joined in, softer but somehow crueler. She's never really been family anyway, always so independent, so cold. The call ended with a click that echoed in my chest like a gunshot. I sat in my driveway for 10 minutes, staring at my phone, waiting for it to make sense. Then the screen lit up again. A text from Mom. "Don't contact us again. You're no longer our daughter. We're done pretending you matter to this family." Mom. No explanation. No context. Just surgical precision designed to cut deepest. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to call, to scream, to demand answers. Instead, I typed one word. Understood. I set the phone down and walked into my empty apartment. The silence felt different now. Not peaceful, but loaded. Like the moment before lightning strikes. They thought they were cutting me loose. What they didn't realize was they'd just freed me from every obligation, every guilt trip, every reason to hold back. By morning, my phone would be exploding with panicked calls. But that night, in the quiet of my kitchen, I opened my laptop and began planning something they'd never see coming. If this story moves you or you've experienced family betrayal, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what happens next will shock you. You'd think after 32 years, I'd have learned to stop expecting fairness from the Morrison family. But hope dies hard when it's your own blood holding the knife. Growing up, the favoritism wasn't subtle. When Edward turned 16, Dad bought him a brand new Honda Civic, midnight blue with leather seats. When my birthday came 6 months later, I got Edward's old bicycle with a pink ribbon tied to the handlebars. "It's practically new," Mom said, avoiding my eyes. College applications told the same story. Edward's acceptance to state got framed and hung in the living room. Mine to design school got a shrug and, well, art's a nice hobby. When Edward flunked out sophomore year, Dad called it finding his path. When I graduated summa cum laude, they didn't even attend the ceremony. But I kept trying. God help me, I kept trying. The calls always came at night. Dad's voice tight with panic. "Annie, honey, I need a favor." The heart attack hit him at 58, and insurance covered barely half. $47,000 I wired without hesitation, draining my emergency fund and maxing out credit cards. Edward was too stressed to help financially, but he sure managed to be there for every photo op at the hospital. 2 years later, Mom's addiction finally caught up with her. Prescription pills that started after a back injury and spiraled into something darker. The rehab facility in Arizona cost $32,000 for a 90-day program. "Annie's so good with money," they told relatives. "She's handling everything." I was handling everything, all right. Working 70-hour weeks, living on ramen and coffee, just to keep my family afloat while they painted me as the cold, distant daughter who chose career over family. The restaurant was Edward's dream. Morrison's Table. A farm-to-table concept that sounded impressive in family conversations. What they didn't mention was that Edward's business plan was written on napkins. His credit was shot, and the only way he got approved for the lease was because I co-signed everything. $60,000. That's what I poured into Edward's dream when the restaurant started failing 6 months in. "Just until we get established," he promised. "You'll get every penny back with interest." The interest never came. Neither did the principal. But Edward's Instagram was full of photos behind the bar, playing the successful restaurateur. "Built this from nothing," his captions read. The comments poured in. "So proud of you." "Self-made success story." Self-made. Right. At family dinners, the narrative was always the same. Dad would lean back in his chair, gesturing toward Edward with his wine glass. Edward's the real entrepreneur here. Annie just pushes papers around. Edward would smirk. That same expression he'd worn since childhood when he got away with something. Some people are born for business, others aren't. I'd sit there cutting my food into smaller and smaller pieces, swallowing words along with my pride. The bank statements in my purse told a different story. $139,000 in 3 years. Transfers, loans, emergency payments, all flowing in one direction, all invisible to the family narrative. The restaurant eventually failed anyway. Edward blamed the economy, the location, bad luck, everything except his complete inability to manage money or show up consistently. But somehow, in family lore, it became a noble attempt that just wasn't meant to be. Meanwhile, my design firm was thriving. Clients across 3 states, a team of 12, projects that actually mattered. But at family gatherings, I was still just Annie who plays with computers and never settled down properly. The pattern was so established, so deeply carved into our family dynamic, that I'd stopped seeing it clearly. I was the bank, the safety net, the responsible one who cleaned up messes. They were the stars, the dreamers, the ones whose failures got sympathy and whose successes got celebrated. It took that voicemail to show me the truth. I wasn't family. I was a resource they'd finally decided they didn't need anymore. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The voicemail kept playing in my head as I paced my apartment. But it wasn't just Dad's words about the inheritance. It was what came after, when they thought the call had ended. Mom's laughter, light and cruel. She'll keep paying no matter how we treat her. It's pathetic, really. Annie's desperate need for approval. Dad had chuckled. Makes her so easy to manage. Easy to manage, like I was a pet, not a daughter. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through recent messages, looking for something, anything that might contradict what I'd heard. That's when I noticed it. A group chat I'd never seen before. Morrison family updates. 3 members. Mom, Dad, Edward. My hands shook as I scrolled through months of messages. Edward. Asked Annie for another 10 grand for equipment repairs. She bought it completely. Dad. Your sister's so desperate to belong, she'll fund anything we ask. Mom. I almost feel bad sometimes. Almost. Edward. Don't. She chose to be the family ATM. Might as well use her. The messages went back 2 years. Jokes about my charity donations, bets on how much they could squeeze out of me before I caught on. Screenshots of my earnest texts asking about Dad's recovery, Mom's sobriety, Edward's business. All shared and mocked. One message made my blood freeze. Edward. When they rid the will, Annie's going to lose her mind. All that money for nothing. Mom. She made her bed. We don't owe her anything. I set the phone down before I threw it through the window. The apartment felt too small suddenly, the walls pressing in. I walked to my home office and opened the filing cabinet where I kept all my financial records. Loan documents, co-signed agreements, business partnerships. A paper trail of every way I'd entangled myself in their lives. The restaurant lease. Co-signed. Dad's business loan for the hardware store expansion. Co-signed. Mom's car loan after her DUI. Co-signed. Edward's credit cards when his credit tanked. Authorized user with full liability. The family business accounts where I'd been added as a financial advisor with full access. I'd been so focused on helping that I'd never realized what I was really doing. I'd been building leverage. Every signature, every guarantee, every financial connection was a thread I could pull. They thought they were cutting me loose, but they'd actually handed me scissors. I opened my laptop and pulled up my banking portal. Every automatic payment, every standing transfer, every safety net I'd built for them over the years, all of it under my control. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Once I started this, there would be no going back. No more family dinners, no more pretending we were something we'd never been. But they'd already made that choice for me, hadn't they? That night, I opened my laptop and began typing emails that would change everything. They wanted me gone? Perfect. They were about to learn what gone really meant. The first call was to First National Bank at exactly 9 a.m. Ms. Morrison, this is regarding the cosign loans under your guarantee, I said, my voice steady as steel. I'm exercising my right to call in the full amounts immediately. The loan officer's pause stretched long enough for me to hear papers shuffling. Ma'am, that's quite substantial. The restaurant loan, your father's business expansion, the equipment financing. We're talking about $200,000 total. Yes, all of them. Today. But, Ms. Morrison, this will trigger immediate collection proceedings against the primary borrowers if they can't pay. I understand completely. Send the acceleration notices. I hung up and moved to the next call. Then, the next. By noon, I'd systematically dismantled every financial safety net I'd spent years building for them. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Having co-signed their loans meant I'd also been granted access to their business accounts for oversight purposes. What I found when I logged in made my stomach turn. Edward hadn't just been incompetent. He'd been stealing. $58,000 in unauthorized transfers over 18 months. Money moved from the family hardware store account to his personal checking, then immediately withdrawn. The digital trail was sloppy, desperate, and completely illegal. Forged signatures on vendor checks, fake invoices for equipment that never existed, even a fraudulent insurance claim for stolen tools that were actually sold on Craigslist. I screenshot everything, saved it all to a secure folder, and forwarded copies to my attorney. Edward had handed me enough evidence to put him in prison. My phone buzzed. A text from Edward. Hey sis, can you spot me $5,000? Cash flow issue. I stared at the message, then deleted it without responding. The third piece of my preparation was the sweetest. 6 months ago, I'd pitched a revolutionary inventory management system to Dad's hardware store association. Waste of money, he'd said. We've done fine with paper and pencil for 40 years. Edward had laughed. Annie's always trying to fix things that aren't broken. That same system was now sitting in my email drafts, polished and perfected. I'd spent the rejection working on it nights and weekends, turning it into something bigger, a complete retail management platform. I picked up my phone and dialed Marcus Chen, CEO of Retail Tech Solutions. Marcus, it's Annie Morrison. Remember that conversation we had about disrupting small business management? Annie, of course, you said you had something revolutionary brewing. I do, and I'm ready to talk numbers. The negotiation took 3 hours. When we hung up, I had a letter of intent for $500,000 and a partnership that would make me CTO of their new small business division. The same family that called me a paper pusher had just made me half a millionaire. I printed the contract and set it on my kitchen table next to the loan acceleration notices and Edward's embezzlement evidence. 3 piles of paper that would reshape everything. My phone started ringing at 6 p.m. Dad first, then Mom, then Edward. I let them all go to voicemail. Annie, honey, there's been some kind of mistake with the bank. Sweetheart, please call us back. We need to talk. What the hell did you do? Call me back right now. The messages grew more frantic as the evening wore on. By midnight, they'd figured out it wasn't a mistake. By morning, my phone had 37 missed calls. But I wasn't answering. I was too busy watching their world crumble from my new corner office. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect? Let me know in the comments, because this gets so much worse. They ambushed me at Meridian Bistro on Thursday evening. I was celebrating my retail tech contract with my business partner Sarah when I spotted them across the restaurant. Mom, Dad, and Edward huddled at a corner table like conspirators. They'd been waiting. Dad approached first. His face a mask of forced calm. Annie, we need to talk, now. I'm having dinner with a colleague, I said, not looking up from my salmon. This can't wait. Mom's voice cracked. "You're destroying everything we've built." Sarah glanced between us, sensing the tension. "I can give you some privacy." "No need," I said. "They won't be staying long." Edward slammed his palm on our table, making the wine glasses jump. "Fix this, now. The bank is calling in loans we can't pay." "Lower your voice," I said quietly. "We're in public." "I don't care." His face was flushed, desperate. "You're destroying this family over petty jealousy." I set down my fork and looked directly at Dad. "No, William. Edward destroyed it. I just stopped cleaning up the mess." "What's that supposed to mean?" Mom demanded. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila folder, placing it gently on the table. "It means your golden child has been embezzling from the family business for 18 months. The silence stretched like a held breath. Edward's face went white. That's not $58,000, I continued, opening the folder. "Forged signatures, fake invoices, fraudulent insurance claims. It's all here." Dad grabbed the papers, his hands shaking. Bank statements, transaction records, copies of forged checks, all with Edward's signature variations clearly visible. "This is impossible," Mom whispered. "Edward wouldn't what? Steal? Lie? Manipulate?" I kept my voice level, professional. "He's been doing all three for years. I just finally stopped enabling it." Edward lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. "You vindictive witch. I'll make you pay for this." "With what money, Edward? You stole it all." The restaurant had gone quiet around us. Other diners were staring, phones discreetly recording. Edward's grip tightened, his face twisted with rage. "Let go of me," I said clearly, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Not until you fix this mess." Sarah stood up. "Sir, you need to release her right now." "This is family business." "This is assault," I said calmly. "And we have witnesses." Dad finally found his voice. "Edward, let her go." Edward released my wrist but didn't back down. "She's lying. Those documents are fake." I rubbed my wrist where red marks were already forming. "The FBI forensic accounting team will determine that. I filed the report this morning." Mom gasped. "You called the FBI?" "Bank fraud is a federal crime, Deborah. $58,000 puts it well into felony territory." Edward's bravado crumbled. "Annie, please. We can work this out. Family doesn't turn on family." "You're right," I said, standing and gathering my things. "Family doesn't, but you stopped being my family the moment you decided I was just an ATM." Dad's voice broke. "We raised you better than this." I looked at him, really looked, and saw a stranger. "No, you didn't. You raised Edward. I raised myself." As I walked toward the exit, Edward's voice followed me, shrill and desperate. "You'll regret this. We'll sue you for everything." I paused at the door and turned back. The entire restaurant was watching now, phones out, recording everything. "Good luck with that, Edward. You'll need to find a lawyer who works for free." The maitre d' approached Edward as I left. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, and we'll be providing security footage to anyone who requests it." Outside, Sarah caught up with me. "Jesus, Annie, are you okay?" I looked back through the window at my family, former family, still arguing at the table, their voices carrying even through the glass. "I'm perfect," I said. And for the first time in 32 years, I meant it. The dominoes fell faster than I'd expected. Within 2 weeks, Morrison Hardware filed for bankruptcy. Without my financial backing and with the embezzlement investigation freezing their accounts, Dad couldn't make payroll. The local news picked it up first. A small story about a family business struggling amid fraud allegations. Then Edward was arrested. I was in my new retail tech office when Sarah burst in with her phone. "Annie, you need to see this." The headline read, "Local restaurant owner charged with embezzlement." Edward's mugshot stared back at me. The same smug expression, but hollow now, desperate. Edward Morrison, 34, faces federal charges for embezzling over $58,000 from his family's hardware business, the reporter announced. If convicted, he could face up to 10 years in federal prison. I closed the browser and went back to work. The house went up for sale 3 weeks later. The same house where I'd been invisible, where Edward's achievements hung framed on walls while mine gathered dust in drawers. The for sale sign looked smaller than I'd imagined. Mom called once during this period. I let it go to voicemail. Annie, sweetheart, please. We lost everything. Your father's working at Home Depot now. And I'm cleaning offices at night. We're living in a one-bedroom apartment above the laundromat. Please call us back. I deleted the message without finishing it. Meanwhile, my life was transforming in ways I'd never imagined. Retail Tech's acquisition of my platform made national business news. $750,000, plus equity, plus a 5-year contract as Chief Technology Officer. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same inventory system Dad had called a waste of money was now being implemented in over 3,000 small businesses nationwide, including, according to my market research, several of his former competitors. 6 months after that night at Meridian Bistro, I was featured on the cover of Small Business Innovation magazine. From family disappointment to tech visionary, the headline read. The article detailed my journey from overlooked daughter to industry leader. I kept a copy on my desk, not out of pride, but as a reminder. Edward's trial made the local news again. Guilty on all counts. 18 months in federal prison, full restitution ordered. Money he'd never have. I watched the coverage from my corner office, city lights twinkling below. The reporter's voice faded into background noise as I thought about that voicemail, that group chat, that moment when everything changed. They wanted me gone. I whispered to the empty office. Careful what you wish for. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Deborah. I know you won't answer, but I need you to know. We were wrong. About everything. I stared at the message for a long moment, then blocked the number. Some bridges once burned should stay that way. 2 years later, I understand what peace actually feels like. Therapy helped me see the patterns I'd been blind to. The way I'd confused obligation with love, transactions with relationships. Dr. Martinez taught me that choosing yourself isn't selfish when others refuse to see your worth. My chosen family looks different now. Sarah, who stood up for me that night at the restaurant, became my business partner and closest friend. My team at Retail Tech celebrates my wins without expecting payment in return. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, brings me soup when I'm sick, just because she cares. These relationships are built on mutual respect, not desperation for approval. Last month, I got an invitation to Edward's wedding. He'd found someone new after his release, apparently. I threw it away without opening it fully. Some people spend their whole lives trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it. I spent 32 years learning that lesson. The family that raised me taught me everything about what love isn't. The family I chose taught me what it is. If you've survived family betrayal or had to choose yourself over toxic relationships, share your story below. Your courage might inspire someone else to find their strength. Sometimes the family that hurts you most is the one you have to leave behind to find the family that will truly love you.